All right, Workplace 20 students, how you guys all doing? Let's take a look as we motor around through the graphing. Let's take a look at 2.3, histograms. All right, so histograms are kind of a little unique. You don't see these a lot, but they are out there. It's very much like a bar graph, but it shows how data is distributed. All right, and we'll take a look at what that means. But basically, you can chunk it out into like groups kind of a thing. So a histogram looks similar to a bar graph, like it says, but the graphs are continuous, okay, rather than discrete. So that means discrete would be like 1, 2, 3, 4, that type of a thing. Whereas when it's continuous and adjacent, it's like you're grouping things from like say 0 to 10, 10 to 20, 20 to 30, and you fall somewhere near. You're not sure that in that 0 to 10 it could be 5, 6, or 7, but it's in that grouping. All right. So the bars on a histogram are usually labeled with a lower and an upper boundary. Okay, and that's why I was talking about like 0 and 10, for example, right? And you can see they include the lower boundary, but not the upper boundary. For example, the histogram below, the first bar includes the ages older than 0, but less than 10, right? So when we take a look at this, this is what we mean. See, we start at 0, we went to 10, and then this is like 10 to 20, and so on. Again, this is one of my things I've been saying in all the videos so far is that you must put a title and you must label your axis. All right. So when you look at this, it says Canadian population distribution by age grouping in 2006. Some people think that population distribution by age grouping should be fairly even, slowly declining with age. Is this apparent? Well, I would definitely say not, because when you look here, that's quite a jump from the 2 million people, from 0 to 10, to the over 4 million people from, say 10 to 20. So, what's going on there? Which age? So you might have to think of a couple of things with that. Which age group has the greatest population? What is the approximate size of this? So again, you would look here, you see over at the top, it's about between 5 and 6. So, yeah, I would say, just over about 5 million people, somewhere in there. So, are between 40 and 50 years old. Approximately how many Canadians were in their 90s? Again, your 90s would be this part of the histogram here. And, it's a tough call on that one. It's about a quarter of the way up, so about 250,000, right? Not the easiest to read there in some ways, but definitely. All right, so approximately how many people between the ages of 10 and 19 lived in Canada in 2006? Okay, so when again, you would look here between 10 and 19, you'd go there and you can see there, about a little over 4 million people. Now, again, we need to know this for like things like tax incentives, or do we have enough for pension plans, all that. There's so many ways you can take graphs, and graphs are really important. Some politicians would maybe change the scale of this to try to make you think that there's a crisis going on. Others might change the scale, make it smaller to say, oh, we're relatively good growth. So you got to really be a great critical thinker when you look at graphs. That's another reason why I really think this unit is so important. I look at this and I think, well, maybe that's because we have a lot of immigration. People are coming to Canada from different places of the world. They've been born somewhere else, and then they're entering Canada, after their 10 years birthday and that type of a thing. So lots to think about when you do that. All right. And there are a couple more questions on this, but again, you're making some inferences based on that. And that's how a lot of decisions are made, like where did the tax dollars go, what decision we made. You look like data like that, and then you figure things on. Okay, so here it says make a table that indicates the approximate number of people in each grouping. So from 0 to 0 to 9, you'd go back here and you say about 2 million people. So this histogram has a lot of information on it. From this data, it appears there are no Canadians over 100. Do you think this is true? Well, there definitely is Canadians over 100, but the way they show this, it'd be such a minute number. Like even in the 90s, it says like about 200,000. So over 100, maybe 10,000, and that wasn't enough people. That would be negligible to show on there. But that's part of doing a graph too, and showing that. So if we take a look at example number 2, again, you can see here, this is going to be your independent variable, and it'll go on the bottom. Okay, so you can see how the hours are there. It's labeled nicely. You can see the spacing has been 5 for the scale. And then the number of people here, right, go on the y-axis, all right, or your dependent variable. And you can see, like, from 0 to 5 hours, you can see how it's thicker. Before, when you were doing a bar graph, you just had, like, 5 or 6. But this tells me it could be like 0 or 5. They could all be 0. Like, I mean, we don't know that when we do that, but it kind of gives you some parameters on there. So you would take all the data and you would put it in. You can see how there's a nice title in here. Everything's graphed. That's a nice looking graph. You can see the spacing here as consistent rate of 200 people there. So it's well put together and then it's easy to read. So it says how many people watch between 10 and 15 hours of television per week. Again, you can just even look at this data here, but that definitely would be 684. But when you have it in a graph and that visual, it's easier to compare than seeing the numbers. Like when I look at this, I'm going, whoa, 15 to 20, wow, that's a lot. And then I'm looking here like, whoa, 30 to 35, not so much. All right, so it definitely, the visual is really good. So how many people watch less than 15 hours a week? Now, this is an interesting question because with 15 here, that takes you 15 less than would take you to 0. So you would have to add up all 3 of those groups. So that's where they get the 1,813 people. How many people watch more than 15 hours? So you'd start at 15 hours and you'd add, I'll use a different color here. You'd add up all these groups here. So when you add up those, you get 1,442 people. So who would want to know this? Well, definitely people that are buying advertising. Who are they advertising for? Younger people, older people? What's their target audience? Because time is money on that. All right. So again, that's a quick look at histograms. I hope that helps do that. You can do the assignment in your textbook on page 105, that 1 through 4. Or you can, well, what I'd also like you to do too is check out the formative, give me some data, make sure you understood this. You'll also be able to enter stuff on the flip grid, join the form, and send questions on Remind. So please let me know how you're doing. Thanks for watching.